This is part 7 of the Creed 7B Mark I Teleprinter restoration, and in this video I'm looking at the chassis. Obviously I've stripped the machine down completely, and I've just been deciding whether or not I'm going to strip and repaint the chassis. It's not in horrendous condition. It does have some fairly minor corrosion in some areas, so I could have probably touched it up, but overall I've decided I'm going to completely strip and repaint it. I'll be using as much as I can an identical paint. The reason I've decided to do this is because I want to have quite a good example of this when I've finished, but also this part is the hardest to get down to, so the other parts I can take off, and if I decide later I want to repaint them I can do that fairly easily. But the chassis of course requires that the entire machine is completely stripped down, and it's quite a big job to reassemble it and get everything realigned. So this is the best opportunity for doing this. First step is obviously I've given it a good clean, examined it, and the paint is peeling off in a few places. Like I said, it's not horrendous, but I think it's worthwhile doing. It's quite a good example of one of these machines, and when I've got it finished it should look quite good, so I don't want to skimp now. I don't think that would be the right way to proceed. So I'm going to go away and get this completely stripped. I'll get back on camera and we'll have a good look at the chassis and see if there's any repairs that need doing to it before it's repainted. Okay, so a couple of hours in the bead blaster and I've got all the old paint off. I've had a very good look at it, and there are no cracks, no real corrosion. The only corrosion was surface corrosion, and the bead blasting took that off. As you can see, it's in very good condition. It's completely flat. I've checked the top surface, so it's not warped. It does rock about, but that's I think they just rough machined the bottom feet on it, but the top I've checked, it's completely flat, so at least where the surfaces have been machined flat. I did mask off all the pins just to make sure that the bead blasting didn't damage them, but I did use a very mild media, so it's aluminium, which actually surprised me. I expected it to be cast iron when I first got the machine, but it's actually cast aluminium, which is fairly surprising. But it makes it easy to clean. Obviously it means it doesn't go rusty, and there was enough paint on to stop any real corrosion setting in, and where I've bead blasted the areas that did have corrosion, they've come up absolutely perfectly. There's no pitting or anything left on them at all. So what I'm going to do now is give it a coat of self-etching primer, and then I'll give it a couple of coats of very hard matte black paint. Leave it a few days to dry, and then I can start to reassemble. Okay, so this is how it looks after a few coats of paint. As I said, I gave it a very thorough clean in the bead blaster. I masked off all the pins, any bits I didn't want to get covered in paint. I then gave it a very good coat of etching primer, and then followed that up with 2 coats of hard matte black enamel type paint. So it should be very tough paint, very hard wearing, and it shouldn't chip off easily. I've done all the major parts. Again, strip them all down. Anything that is going to be hard to remove later on, I included. The main assemblies I haven't painted, but as you can see the paint is actually a very good match for the original, and if ever I need to I can just take these parts out very easily, strip them down, and then paint the castings. But as I said earlier, it's much harder with the base and the main parts because it does require quite a lot of disassembly. So next step is to start reassembling. I'll do that in the next video by reinstalling the wiring loom, checking all the wiring, and then I can flip it back right side up and start putting the main assemblies back on.